Welcome, everybody, to the Breaking Ground Ep.4. Today, we have a very special guest, Amanda Adams, who is currently the Business Center Operations Lead at the Stantec office in Denver, Colorado. She is a personal friend of mine now, and once was my mentor, and it still is my mentor. So, super stoked to have you, and welcome.
Thank you, Hannah. It's great to see you. Great to see you again. Yes, we used to work together, and I'm really flattered that you reached out to have me on Breaking Ground.
Of course. Yeah, no, your experience, just who you are as a person, I aspire to be like you. So I hope that the rest of the world feels the same way. So just to start, do you want to give me a little background on where you're from originally, like where you went to college, just your beginnings?
Yeah, definitely. Have lived in Colorado my whole life and in kind of the Denver area my whole life, and went to School of Mines, as you
The
know.
ore
We're both
diggers.
ore diggers,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yes, I loved going to School of Mines, even though I had no idea what I actually wanted to do. Was really lucky. One of my best friends her boyfriend was actually a year older than us, and we went to high school together, and he went to mines. And then she and I ended up going to mines together and being roommates. And yeah, actually lived together all 4 years at mines. And I went in, I think I was originally a physics major.
I love that that's what you chose first. That's very bold of you.
So many of our decisions are based on people that we interact with. And so I had some amazing like physics teachers in high school that I thought, wow, physics is so cool. Like they made it so interesting.
Mhm.
And then turns out that was not.
Yeah, you see their passion and you think that that applies the same way. And I think those are sometimes the best teachers. You just have to find out if that's really, kind of what you want to do. In physics, I think you take this studio or start to do any of those practice problems and you start to kind of really find out for yourself. So,
Yes. So it was good learning, kind of really helping to say, whoa, never mind. Like, this is
you
what this is.
thought,
I
yeah.
don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so always really loved earth science, and that, you know, sort of was like, whoa, what do you like doing? I like looking at cool rocks. I love geology.
Yeah.
And so
Earth
that
101.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where I ended up going, geological engineering. And that was amazing. But then, kind of got done with mines. And once again, it's sort of like, oh, now what am I going to do? I need to do I need to find a job that
Or an
has
internship
geo
in
something,
between.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also really hard, just navigating the professional world. I think the tools and things that we have now are so much better. Things like this podcast, like social media,
Teams as a whole, yeah. Hmm.
making it a lot easier to interact with people that you may not not be living near or able to meet face to face, but still having a way to learn about people's careers and options for careers. I just think it's a totally different landscape now. And I really appreciate that we're able to, if people want to find out more about different kinds of careers, like the platform is out there.
Yeah. Well, really, and you were saying before, it's based off the people you interact with. So it's like if you see it, you can be it. And a lot of the time we follow the footsteps of like our parents or our aunts and uncles that we know are engineers or doctors or lawyers. And you don't really know that like even positions that we have as geological engineering really exist until you show up to mines and you know that that's a major. But that's really, I think, what we're trying to do with this is showcasing all the different kind of avenues that you can pursue right in school, right out of high school. And maybe you didn't know about it before. Maybe you didn't have a geologist dad or a geologist mom, and turned out you actually love rocks when you take a Earth 101 class and get to have to like identify them. So yeah, so you started with, was it CTL Thompson kind of right out of school, or how did
I
that
did,
go?
yes. So I managed to find a job with Geo something something. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
CTL was a really it was a geotechnical
Mm-hmm.
engineering role, and I didn't really have a good soils soils engineering background. So it was good to be able to take the real like geology and rock focus that we had in the geological engineering program at Mines and get more of a soils and geotech background. So really understanding,
Yeah.
um, you know, moisture curves, soil compaction, soil classification.
Hmm.
We had like this much of it. So that was really where I learned a lot of those fundamentals. And I was out in the field and I was, doing construction quality assurance for foundation investigations or foundation design, watching concrete, be poured, inspecting foundations, footings, drilled piers. So got a lot of, out in the field construction experience, which was great. But
Hmm.
building, the things that we were building were light construction, right? So houses, kind of small.
Probably like
Um,
one floor slab on grade, commercial or industrial buildings, nothing
right.
crazy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of the, kind of the technical challenge came from the swelling soil that we have in a lot of the Denver metro area and how we go out and we drill some holes and take some California barrel samples and
Hmm.
then do some testing and say, oh man, that thing's swelling, 15%.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Let's
20%. It's like don't build on that, especially in Colorado. That's like the biggest hazard out here. So what a great kind of start to your career to have to learn that side of it. Did you really know that geotech was so different from geological kind of coming out of school, or was that something you learned as you went?
No, definitely learned as I went. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
same
was sort
here.
of like how, how do I apply? Like I learned all these things in school. How am
Right.
I now
Here.
using them? Where,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
how does what I learned in school translate into what
Apply to
I'm
that. Yeah.
doing for work? And it's
Especially when you're
funny.
pulling it out of the ground like Mach speed and having to log it as you go. Like it's different than rock. It's not something that they really can teach you in school. You have to really like learn that on the fly, which is not just using your technical brain. It's actually having to use like your hands and having to label things and having to think of everything all at once. So I
That's
really
right.
think that is a great foundation for like what we do now and having to be out there and inspect things and see how it's constructed and do compaction testing, density testing, whatever, just so that you know.
That's
So
right. That's
what
right.
ended up pushing you to kind of go towards working for NWH, which later became Stantec then?
So in 2008, there was kind of the global, financial
Downturn.
crisis and the housing bubble popped, and everyone we were building houses everywhere, and inflation and all the um, interest rates and everything, and all of a sudden,
Mhm.
whoop. And so I got laid off, which was a huge blessing, probably the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Aw.
Certainly the best thing that's ever happened for my career.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really happy. I wasn't really satisfied in my career. The experience that I had was focused on, kind of this geotech work in the Denver area. Um, and just not even really seeing like where is this leading? I mean, I could do this for a long time with this same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but there's not like much of a future past that other than just doing the same thing over and over again, kind of.
That's right. So
Mhm.
I got laid off, and that led to a lot of, soul searching. What
Mhm.
do I want to do? What parts of this are really interesting to me? What things did I learn in school that I haven't been using? Do I want to look in my next opportunity? Do I want to look for the opportunity to do more of these things that I'm not doing? What skills do I have? Have I taken
Yeah.
from this role that I've had that I'm going to bring with me into my next job, into my next company? And so I had a summer where I was job hunting, and then ended up joining MWH, which was like a totally different feeling, right? Like we were
Yeah.
working on international projects. We were working across lots of different sectors. I
Yeah,
was in an
bigger
office with,
infrastructure. Yeah.
that's right. I was in an office with people that were working on, water treatment plant design and, soil remediation and tailings dams. And all these things that I had never
Yeah.
even
Been
heard of.
exposed to. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. So just being in that environment that had more breadth
Mhm.
was really refreshing, and working with a whole different group of people, some that I still work with today, and
Mhm.
that have been an amazing support, and not just support, but really propelling me forward in my career, and amazing people to work with.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm so glad that you ended up making that transition because I don't know if we would have met otherwise. But what made you kind of get into mining then if you were introduced to all these different parts of the industry, like water treatment? I mean, there's a lot of different avenues that you can go, but what kind of caught your attention with mining specifically? And when did you make that pivot?
Yeah, so actually at mines, they have the two tracks for
Mhm.
geological engineering. There's like the geohazard track and the kind of more resource geology track. And so I actually did
Exploration.
that resource
Cool.
geology track. Yeah.
Hmm.
Who
I
knew?
didn't know that about you, but I love that. I love that.
So I actually had more of a background in mining than I had in like
Oh,
geotech or stability.
wow.
And so that was what I was hired to do originally at MWH, was working with a very small kind of mine planning group,
Mhm.
and kind of very specialized. And we were, uh, doing building like 3D geological models for primarily for coal mining, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was cool. You would look at look at the drill holes and geophysics, and in Carlson software, and AutoCAD, you would build these three-dimensional, here's the overburden layers, here are the interburden
Yeah.
layers, and here are the coal seams, and then giving that back to the client so that they could figure out how they would actually mine it.
Wow. I didn't know that you were involved in that. Were you doing the technical side of it or more managing like the project management or a little of both?
No, I actually I had a computer that had CAD on it,
Wow, that's a
Hannah.
heavy computer then,
I
probably,
used to
but
do actual work.
wow. Okay. So just out of all of the technical work and I guess time before that, what was the most like challenging project or most memorable project that you worked on? Because I know you do a little more people management now, but back
I do more
back
people
then.
management now, but
Mhm.
my favorite project, and kind of still my love of technical
Mhm.
projects, is tailings dam design. And so
Mhm.
I ended up starting to work with a team at MWH that was doing mining, but tailings. I didn't
Mhm.
know what a tailings dam was, but I learned, and I loved working on those projects because they you had to understand how all of these different elements work together. So you had to understand
Mhm.
how the foundation of the dam worked. You had to understand, um, you know, seismic hazards, flood hazards, construction. And then you also have to understand the mining piece, because, the mine is operating, and that's you're not filling the dam with water, you're filling it with mine waste. So that keeping that mining piece, but also like heavy construction and dam design piece, was just really where I found my technical passion. And I worked on those projects either from a technical standpoint or project management standpoint for a long time. And those are definitely my favorite projects. And they were hard, I mean, working on large capital construction projects, from design through construction and into operation, interfacing with the client,
Every step of the process,
every
basically.
step of the process,
Yeah.
managing the budget,
Mhm.
understanding what everyone is working on, and how you bring all of those things together into one cohesive design. That was it. It's hard, but I love it.
Yeah, is that where you got your taste for like big picture kind of work where it's like, okay, let's stop, zooming in on all the technical details, but start to manage people to start running those projects themselves and doing the technical work? Where did you feel that shift where you started to want to move towards being like a people manager or group manager instead of being the one that was stamping the designs or doing the models?
Yeah, I mean, definitely through that process where I would work on technical aspects of the project, but I was always kind of looking at the bigger team and seeing,
Yeah.
hey, there's a gap here.
Yeah.
The people that are working on the stability analysis need to be talking to the people that are working on the material balance analysis, and
Because they all
there's
come,
a
yeah, they
and
all
there's
come
a
together
broken
there.
link there. I'm talking to both of these people, and I know they're not talking to each other. So
Yeah.
how do I bridge that gap and start, working as like a project coordinator, where I was
Yeah.
helping the project manager just keep their finger on the pulse of everything that was going on with the project, and then started working as a project manager, you know, being in charge of, hey, you're the one that's driving the project forward, and you need to understand what everybody's doing, managing the technical, is the technical team doing what they need to do when they need to do it? Are we getting all the correct inputs and reviews? But also the budget and, that money piece. You really learn a lot about business when you're managing a project, because you're seeing, here's, we have this revenue or these payments that we're getting from the client, and we have these costs, we have a schedule, we have all these tasks, how, that
Constraints.
each have money associated with them. Managing all of that as your own kind of little mini business. How do, we have this budget, we have this goal. Doing it successfully was that first step into what I do now, which is that only at a much, much bigger scale, right? Where it's hundreds of projects and millions of dollars. And, but it's the same fundamental piece. And that's where I started learning to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like you're the perfect person to kind of step into a role like that that understands the technical side, but also is a people person. So having to make that transition from being more technical to being more big picture and a people manager, how like what lessons have you learned and how do you lead with like both empathy and authority for, the people that are doing the work that you've done before, but now you're telling them to do it?
Yeah, it's both of those things. Empathy and authority is a really great thing. So how do you build empathy? How do you build your EQ, your emotional IQ? It's hard. Some people, kind of have an innate talent to do it, or um, some people may be more personable or more friendly, but that doesn't mean that you can't be a good, be a good
Leader.
people manager. And we always learn from our own experiences first. So
Mhm.
I have had some really amazing managers that took a lot of time to get to know me, to get to know my strengths and weaknesses, and
Yeah.
push me in directions that I didn't necessarily think of going myself. But, from their experience, they knew, hey, you have a certain aptitude, for this. How about you try this?
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a direction that I would have picked for myself
Mhm.
at the time, but it ended up being super rewarding and super enjoyable for me.
Yeah, so going deeper into that, do you have like mentors specifically on your mind that have kind of shaped where like the directions that you've taken, or has it been like a conglomerate of people that have just given you insight kind of as you've gone?
Oh, I mean, tons of mentors. One of my favorite mentors that I just learned so much from, and was a woman, one of the first women that I worked with, that was, really successful in her career, was Tatiana Alexieva, and she's amazing. We worked together for a long time. She taught me so many things. She taught me about designing a tailings dam. She taught me about being a project manager. She taught me about being a working mom. Like, she was also a working mom and had come up through, you know, a much more male dominated time in the industry than I was in at that time, and certainly much more than it is now, although we still have
Yeah.
a long way to go. But just seeing how she approached problems was one of the most important things that she taught me. I don't know if you've seen there's a series of sketches by Picasso, a series of
Hmm.
sketches of a bull. And
Okay.
so they go in increasing and increasing detail, so showing like, in some of them you really see like the details of the muscles of the bull. You see all of these details, and then at the very end, there's the last sketch just has like 5 or 6 lines. It's super simple, but it's still clearly recognizable as a bull. And so she would use
Yeah.
this example when we were putting together, like when you're writing a report or when you're putting together a client presentation. Um, you want to get to that really elegant, just this is the bull. You have exactly what you need to know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
no more, no less, right? Like
No
the
more,
perfect
no
balance.
less.
Uh-huh.
But the but the part but Picasso could draw the bull with all of the details. So you can't just jump to the end
Yeah.
and put together just a summary unless you really understand
All the
how to
details.
draw the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just the way that she would approach writing a report, logically, you can't just talk about this part. You're jumping to these results, but you haven't explained, here's why we did this, and getting to that right level of enough detail so that it makes sense logically, but not extraneous detail, not running on. um, I love that example, and
Well,
uh,
especially with like technical writing, I feel like that's, part of it. It's you want the most amount said in the least amount of words without missing any of the explanation, I feel like. And I don't know if we're really trained super well to write that way because it's either creative writing where you're just writing fluff on fluff on fluff and then you finally get a sentence after, a whole paragraph. But I feel like with that explanation, it's kind of like, hey, you need to go through all the steps and all the process to be able to produce the results in a way that is concise, that
it's
people can understand just by looking at it. They don't have to see all the details, but you had to have the details to arrive at that kind of summary. Is that kind of, I guess, what you're saying there?
that's exactly what I'm saying. And one of the other really important things that she taught me was,
Yeah.
how to give feedback, right? Because I mean, I would write a memo and I would be so proud of it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
oh, I did a really good job. And
Mhm.
then, send it to
You
her
get
to
the red
review.
back probably.
And you get the red, I mean,
Yeah.
red, and like
Red
turn
on
it
red.
over and there's more
Yeah, you're
red.
like, all right, I'm just gonna give up now. But
But it didn't feel like I just want
mhm.
to give up. Now it
Yeah,
felt
good.
like here's not just here's the changes that we need to make, but why this section doesn't logically follow this section. This introduction um, doesn't doesn't really explain like why are we writing this? Why are we writing this memo? Why did we do this project? So having that introduction that really kicks off the whole rest of the report and just the way that everything flows together. So she really taught me how to structure a memo, a report, a proposal, a presentation, and that's such an important skill, like being able to
It's
take
priceless,
and
honestly,
do
it
that and
is.
teach other people how to do it as well. So
In a
that's,
way that they understand too. I think with engineers, especially, like
oh
writing
yeah,
is probably not the first thing that we like put on our skills that we do, but it's necessary to convey the information and the data that we're, receiving. So to have a mentor that can do that in a constructive way, that it's not like, hey, this is all red, just try again. No, that's not very helpful. But to say, hey, why are we doing this, when she's thinking about small picture, big picture, even just what you were talking about before, you need the details to be able to even summarize what you're doing. So I think that is something we're kind of missing, even in the education I receive, where it's like, yeah, you do take one or two writing classes, but it's never tied to the technical aspect of it. It's always like, hey, let's throw in just one liberal arts class to make you write about humanities. But then again, it's like you're not learning that technical writing. And it really, with in consulting, especially, like you're doing GDRs, GBRs, memos, executive summaries, all of that, like that's a very important part, especially as you move into doing proposals and more of the marketing side. Like that's everything in trying to win a project. So do you feel like that set you up for success where you are now, kind of managing more of that, I guess, more client-facing salesy side than the technical side?
Yes, I mean it's a skill that you can apply everywhere. Being able to be clearly understood,
Per-
to have, I have an objective. I, we want to win this project, um, complete this design, win a new client. Anything that you need to do to achieve that objective is about communicating. So whether it's through images, through words, through presentations, through a report, being able to do that effectively is just this universal skill.
can be applied anywhere, and it's literally the human like language of just being understood as a human being. So just to segue into something else, just based off of having to learn, this about yourself and just, I guess, have to learn more about people in writing, is that kind of what made you want to get more involved in organizations like Women in Mining Denver, or what kind of sparked your interest for uh, volunteering or joining groups outside of just working at MWH or Stantec?
Yeah, I didn't really realize at the time how beneficial it would be joining these organizations. I was just excited. I wanted to get involved, but I didn't really think of it as an intentional career building activity. But that's definitely what it is. And I
Now that
tell young
you can
people
look back on it, you're like, yes, this does help, but hard to know
it
that.
helps. And I never got pushback from the people that I was working with on,
Mhm.
oh, don't do that. It's a waste of time. No one ever said that because they knew that it is really important to build those industry connections, build your industry brand, because that's, anyone that you meet could be a potential new colleague, a potential client. So the more that you are woven into the fabric of whatever industry you're working in, it's going to help you be a more successful professional. And so at the time I was just, oh, I'm going and, volunteering for these women in mining events where we're talking to kids about why minerals are important and how mining is actually part of our everyday life, even though you may not realize it. That was just
Mhm.
something that I was personally passionate about. But now I see and I coach people, you have to do it and you have to start early, and it's going to pay back tons of dividends later in your career. But just starting it at the end isn't going to, you have to start it early when it's not as obvious where is this leading to. But
Yeah.
now, like, yeah, about my involvement with women in mining. Now I'm on the board of the U.S. Society on Dams, which is an amazing organization, and now I'm really able to take my operational leadership experience from Stantec and apply that to a nonprofit organization. How are we running as an organization? What are our goals? What are our objectives? What are our budgets? Like, you're getting that experience, and I'm taking my business experience and applying it there, and taking leadership experience that I'm getting from working on that board, executive presence, and interacting with a completely different team, and bringing those experiences back to my job. So it really is it, all these things benefit each other, but it takes time, like it takes commitment. It
And
is,
showing up. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's essentially an unpaid extra job because you're putting in, I mean, you're volunteering on the weekends, you're taking calls after work,
It's volunteering. Yeah. You're not
it's
getting paid for it.
volunteering.
Hmm.
But like I said, from my professional development standpoint, when people say, oh, wow, you're so successful or whatever, what did you do? That's what I did. My involvement with industry professional organizations.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. I think I'm starting that now because I've realized, even if you're not the BD, like business development person or the person that they're asking to get new jobs. Like you never know if the person that you're working with is going to be your colleague or your next boss, or maybe work for you eventually. You really never know. And I think you get to learn so much technically and about people and just showing up. And it's scary at first. Like I want everyone to know that it's okay to be intimidated and to be scared to show up to a group for the first time when everyone kind of seems like they know each other already and you're the outside, person looking in. I think it just takes, going 3 times before you start to make one friend that you see at every event. So do you have any advice for, anyone that's kind of starting out that they don't go to like WIM or any sort of organization like that? Do you have any advice for them to kind of get their feet wet a little bit or to take the first dive?
Yeah, I mean, if you were involved in like a student chapter of an organization when you were in school, that's a great place to start.
Like AEG, that's a great one. Yeah.
Right, because even if it's not, maybe it isn't exactly the right organization to propel your professional career, you're going to get experience with kind of that mingling and networking. And if it's in a more familiar space, then it's going to just help you when you are in that new unfamiliar space. It's the same skills, being able to, you know, have a strong handshake,
Yeah.
confidently
Be
talk to people.
firm. Yeah, yeah. It's confidence though. And the more that you do that, the more that it's gonna feel easier. It's never super easy, but it's gonna get easier the more that you do it and put yourself out there and just own the space that you're in. And I think seeing people like you doing it, it's exactly what the younger generations need to see to know that they can do it too, and to know that it just takes a little bit of courage and putting yourself out there and not having all of the answers. So
And just
do you go ahead?
curiosity,
Mhm.
wanting to, when you meet someone, just go into it with the mindset like, I want to know more about this person. I want to ask open-ended questions and genuinely find out something about them. And maybe it's about, their hobbies or their family. And then once you get a dialogue going, then it can turn into more, business or professional, but
Yes.
just
Yes.
having that curiosity.
Yeah, I honestly, if I could like put that on a shirt or a plaque or something so that I could remember, I feel like curiosity is the beginning, like the beginning of everything. If you can, show up to these events, and it might be intimidating because these people have been in the industry for 30 plus years. If you show up with that curiosity of just who they are as a person to begin with, then it really opens the door to everything else because you establish trust, that curiosity, that more that you're there for more than just work, because I think, we work at least 8 hours a day of our life and we have to work so much that it's nice to let loose a little bit and talk about your family or your hobbies, or even the weather sometimes is actually even a good way to introduce like a conversation like that. And I think, again, with kind of similar to technical writing, like in our engineering careers, we don't get a lot of training or practice or guidance on how to have those conversations or how to show up at a networking event or what questions to ask or even what to wear. Like those are all questions that are floating in a very, especially socially anxious, mind, that it, until you really just show up and do it. Like for me, I didn't have much guidance, and I wish I could have heard from you earlier on, because I already was lucky to have you when I did, but heard just earlier on about like, hey, it's okay, put yourself out there. You cannot know. You can, like, you don't have to pretend like when you don't, because actually curiosity is how you learn all of those things and also make a new friend or two. So I
That's
really
right.
think it's so important, and we don't really harp it enough, especially in school, to start that early.
So one of my other mentors,
Hmm.
Andrew Watson, he
Hmm.
shared an article with me several years ago. Terry Gross, who has an NPR radio show called Fresh Air. So her job is like interviewing people. So she did like an interview about how does she interview people, and she says that the question that she asks is, "Tell me about yourself." And so I have adopted that. And when I meet someone new, sometimes we kind of we direct the conversation unintentionally by saying, oh, what do you do? Or tell me
Or
your
like a
job,
specific
or
question instead
that's
of
right.
leaving it
But
open-ended for them.
yeah, tell me
Mhm.
about yourself. Let's the other person choose the direction. It helps you learn more about them. And then depending on, what they tell you, then you can take the conversation
Pivot.
from there. But
Yeah.
tell me
I think
about
that,
yourself. Terry
yeah, it
goes.
literally it leaves it open-ended to go any direction that you want. And for anybody that might feel a little socially anxious or whatever, it gives them that out to dictate the conversation wherever they want, and less, having those specific questions. So kind of just to pivot to a little bit different of a topic, have there been any moments in your career that you've kind of questioned your path and where you're at? And if so, how did you push through that?
Yeah, I think having kids really makes you reevaluate, like, whoa, can I keep doing this? How do I do this? How do I take on this new mom job? Which is like a whole job.
Yeah,
It's your
that's
whole
a
life,
whole,
right?
that's you're responsible for keeping someone else alive. Yeah.
That's right. So, there were definitely parts where it was just like, how do I keep doing this job and do that job too? And I
And
found
show up the
ways,
best
yeah,
for both. Yeah.
and show up the best for both. And I can definitely say that I always, when I had those moments of doubt, I always felt like I was falling down on the mom part of the job, not on the job part of the job. Uh,
Because you've
and-
been trained and you had all the time already doing that. Like when you have a kid, it's like it's a brand new world that like you're having to kind of learn as you go too, because every baby's unique.
That's right. And I mean, from my experience, I enjoyed work. I got a lot of fulfillment out of it. I felt really confident in what I was doing.
Yeah.
Taking
Totally.
care of a baby, you do not feel confident.
Well, and you don't get much feedback either, other than like whenever they're crying or whatever. But it's not like they can tell you how good of a job you're doing,
Yeah.
like it's very different.
Well, I mean, I travel a lot and, so feeling like, how can I still
Yeah.
show up for my kids? How can I show up for my husband and you do all the things all the
Yeah.
time.
Be all the things.
You can't be all the
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
is the
That's a
bottom
lesson
line.
learned, yeah.
So having a lot of patience with yourself and
Gentleness.
being able to, uh, being able to say, hey, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm taking the day off and, doing this with the family, and that's okay. Or saying, hey, kids, I'm not going to be here for dinner tonight. We're going to the women in mining thing, and that's also okay. Uh,
Yeah.
that it still takes practice and it takes a lot of, loving yourself. But
Well, yeah, and
those are
your
those are
kids
the
age
times
and
when I have
change. Like,
the hardest.
how do you keep up with that?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. And I have an amazing support system. I mean, I do not do this on my own in any
It's
way,
honestly, that's
shape,
what
or
I hear
form.
from everyone that comes on here. It's like I could not be doing what I am doing or what I did do without the amazing support system. And I think that just goes to show that you really do need to find that and lean on it when you can, because it takes a village with kid, I really think that it takes that as a whole. And especially in our industry, it can be, women in mining, it can be women outside of mining. Like it doesn't even have to just stop there. So do you have any advice to a younger you that you would give, past just even what you just talked about?
Yeah. Um, some of the most amazing supporters that I have had have been peers, so they are your friends at work, right? But they're going through the same things that you're going through. They're facing some of the same challenges. Maybe they're facing different challenges, but they can lean on you and then you can lean on them. So building that really strong group of peers
Yeah.
seems kind of silly, like, oh, friends at work. But it's so important to have that outlet. Because some things you can talk to, you can talk up, you can talk to your boss about, but some things you just really need to talk to someone who's going through the same thing,
I can relate.
not
Yeah.
who's not directly, your boss or reporting to you, but is your peer, and they've
Mhm.
known you for a really long time, and they care about you and you care about them. Having not just one, not just two, but like a whole
Yeah.
group of those people, and women and men. I mean, I have some amazing supporters that are women, and then, some guys too that, you just are talking about like being a parent, and getting the mom's perspective and getting the dad's perspective too, or being a supervisor, or thinking about taking a new role and, oh, should I go for it or shouldn't I, should I apply for this, internal promotion? Like, they're your cheerleaders, they help you. You have to have that. You can't just be uh, on your own at work.
Yeah, I think I agree full-heartedly, and I think that even can go across even companies. Like I have people in very similar positions with other consultants, or when I was at a consultant, and it actually did give me that perspective of like, oh, okay, so you're either going through something similar that I am, or our experiences are completely different. And if that's a bad thing, you want to find out why. But it always, I think you can network at the same time as also kind of figuring out if where you're at is where you should be. And if that's, if maybe you could have more opportunities elsewhere that you're not getting there, that you didn't know existed before you reached out to your friend that works at a different consultant. Or you might reach out to them and find out that you have it very, very good where
Yeah.
you're at
And
and you're
and
paid
yeah,
well.
and
Yeah.
come over this way.
Yeah. And so
Yes.
you can bring them kind of into your atmosphere. And I think it really doesn't ever do anything bad. Like, why would you not do that? Because if they do come to work with you, then great. You have a friend right there. So I am so with you. I think it's important to have that across the board. Even, I work for a contractor now, but even having people similar experience, but just in a little different of an atmosphere, they can show you maybe something, like I said, that you were missing that you didn't know before. So yeah, thank you again for all of this great advice. You obviously have lived through it all. You have kids, you have a great career, you're very well respected. So thank you for taking the time today. I'm really excited to kind of hear the feedback, and I hope that everybody feels the same way about you that I do.
Thank
Just
you, Hannah.